Memories have always fascinated me. I love sharing some of them, and yet in other cases I would love to forget them. But in 7 years from now, a young high schooler named Haruto Soraki is doing everything he can to try and reclaim what he's forgotten. Welcome everybody to I Dream of Indie. My name's Ole Gamer Joe, and today we're reviewing 7 years from now on the Steam PC platform. This game will also be available on the Switch, and it's an adventure narrative game, I suppose, but really, as we'll get into, you won't be doing all that much actual playing, but you will be doing plenty of reading. So having lost all of his memories in a prior accident, Haruto begins having flashbacks to other events that have occurred in his life, and eventually he remembers a promise that was made between him and a young girl. He then becomes determined to fulfill that promise. This is actually a pretty difficult story to discuss without any spoilers, but what I can say is that you can expect a lot of crazy plot twists in this game, and if you are a fan of games that are narratively driven such as To the Moon, yeah, this goes there in a lot of different ways. There are hard-hitting emotional moments, there are some light-hearted moments, but for the most part, you're going down a deep, deep rabbit hole. There are times throughout 7 years where you will gain control of your character, but most of your time is going to be spent reading through text, and there is no voice acting whatsoever. When you do gain control of a character, however, it mainly serves as a vessel to, again, advance the story, so you're moving from one point to another, and you're going to spend a lot of time in your hometown area. You won't really see a lot of different settings in this game. This almost gives the game a little bit of a visual novel feel, and unfortunately you can't quickly scroll through the text. You do have to manually push the button. You'll find that this game is very limited in options, but no, really the only point of this gameplay is to get to the next story beat, so I was often asking myself, what's the point of even having control? The best thing I could come up with is that the developers were testing whether or not you were still paying attention. So yeah, it would have been nice to have a little bit of exploration, a little bit more interactivity here or there, but it's not to be. But thankfully this story will keep you invested, at least I believe it will. It hits on enough emotional levels where I wanted to see what was going to happen next. It's pretty long-winded, but again, there's enough twists and turns throughout where I don't feel like you'll be bored. Last warning though, there is some kind of messed up content in this game that's probably not what you were expecting when you looked at it, but yeah, heavy subject matter for sure. As far as the visuals of this game, it goes for a 3D pixel art style. If you're a fan of games like Minecraft, or I'm going back in time here with one that I like, 3D Dot Heroes, you might appreciate this look. It's a love it or hate it type deal. I don't have an issue with it. It's not always my favorite art style, but I think it works well enough here. It's kind of cute, which sort of meshes in a weird way with the darker undertones of this story. It does make for an interesting visual presentation. I wasn't a big fan of this whole menu icon being on the screen the entire time. I couldn't figure out a way to get rid of it. It does feel a little lazy in some ways. Perhaps this was just a quick port from the iOS version of the game or the mobile version, but yeah, a little bit flimsy in terms of actual effort put into making a full-fledged PC release, but overall I did still find the visuals pleasant enough. It is worth noting that I ran into a couple of glitches throughout my gameplay. My sound would sputter from time to time and sort of click in and out, and I did notice a little bit of slowdown, but it was nothing that was game-breaking, I would say. But on the subject of that sound, this is a really wonderful soundtrack. I would say it heightens the mood quite a bit. Some very nice melodic piano, very sad at times, uplifting at other times. Seems to go along well with the script in general. 7 years from now does not feel entirely original just due to the fact that To the Moon exists, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't carry a lot of emotional weight with it. It is still a gut punch at times. It has an interesting visual style that's a bit of a mixed bag, but overall I like the blocky pixel art, and I have to say the soundtrack is really quite captivating. I think the writing is strong, the translation here was perfectly fine. I didn't find too many spelling errors or anything like that, and I did feel a connection between some of these characters. I wanted to know what was going to happen next, and ultimately that's all you could ask of a narrative. Overall, it's a sad game for sure, so if you're in a low place in life, this might not be the best option, but if you enjoy emotionally driven games and you prefer story over gameplay, then this one does come highly recommended. Sure, I didn't necessarily like every narrative choice, but I have to say this about 7 years, it kept me on my toes. I want to thank you so much for watching the latest video from I Dream of Indie. We'd now like to take a moment to thank our great indie warriors who support us through channel memberships. Mitchell Hall, Kevilo Bunny, Bill Tikaz, Christian Cruz, Strict9, Rosie Syntax, Chris Jackson, Nathan Moore, Peach, Adriana Amato, CJR, Jesse, Falco, Lombardi, C. Coil, and Skeptism. Thank you for all you do for independent games developers, publishers, and for I Dream of Indie. Everybody else, head down to the description box below and help us bring a voice to the voiceless ones in gaming.